Hello, everybody. I have Bible study for you today in Genesis 3:16. This one is called Eve's Consequences. The verses to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. John 16:21 says, a woman, when she is in labor, has sorrow because her hour has come. But as soon as she has given birth to the child, she no longer remembers the anguish for joy that a human being has born into the world. Genesis 4:7 speaks of desire. It says, if you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. And 1 Corinthians 11:3 talks about the husband having authority over the wife. It states, but I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ. The head of woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. Ephesians 5:22 says, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. As a side note to this verse, I want to say a wife's submission to her husband voluntarily arises out of submission to Christ, meaning the more you submit to the Lord will change your desire to submit to your husband. If you go back to the Bible study I did on Adam's helper, we talked of the creation of Eve and how she was designed to be Adam's helper or helpmeet. God created woman to stand side by side with man, not above or below. But now we see that in Eve's punishment, God has regulated man to lead over woman. Notice I said punishment and not curse. God did not curse Adam and Eve. God cursed the snake and he cursed the ground, but he punished Adam and Eve for their sins. In this punishment, we see that the battle of sexes has begun. Each strives for control, and neither lives in the best interest of the other. But in what was God's perfect plan, Adam and Eve were both on equal footing. Genesis 1:28 says, then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. We see in this verse God's perfect plan. God told Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. It doesn't talk of pain in childbirth. One of Eve's consequences was that pain in childbirth. Eve was created as a helpmeet for Adam, and after her sin and punishment, she still was. She was also created to help Adam spiritually meet God. God is part spirit and man is flesh and bone. How could the two relate to each other? God gave Adam a woman he could love, cherish, nurture, and desire to protect. In Adam's love for Eve, he could begin to understand God's love for him. Why do you think that the enemy wants to pervert marriage? Why do you think Satan attacks the home? He's hitting at the very core of God's creation to help us all understand God's love. You can understand his love for us when you see it in the love that you have for your spouse, children, parents, and friends. Even though Adam and Eve both sinned, and Adam followed Eve and ate the fruit, I believe this is the first indication of God's plan, redemption, which means that God himself would follow us to the earth in human form and suffer pain and die for our redemption. Maybe the pain in childbirth is a reminder of the pain that Jesus suffered for our sins. Next in the verse it says, your desire shall be for your husband. Maybe in this, we're meant to understand that even though childbirth and child rearing will involve pain and sorrow, a woman will still desire to be married and have a family. The last part of the verse states, and he shall rule over you. The way that I view this is God having complete authority, then the husband, and then the wife. Mind you, I didn't always feel this way. It took me a while to get here. But the more I submitted to God, the more He changed my view on this. I would like to point out another aspect that goes along with this verse. Ephesians 5:25 states, "Husband, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her." This tells us that even as Jesus put his children and church before himself, even as Jesus was tortured and put to death for us, husbands should love their wives in the same way. That even though the husband has authority over his wife, he should put her needs above his own. Genesis 2:24 says, "The two shall become one flesh." To become one flesh means that man and woman will share each other's heart. Man should seek to understand his wife's heart and make decisions on that. It's commonly said that woman acts on their emotions and a man acts on his reasoning. God created women to be more emotional than men. A woman is able to sense the presence of God quicker than a man. So even though a husband will rule or dominate his wife, the husband should and will love his wife so much that he would recognize the needs of his wife and make decisions based on her heart and the protection of it. The next one I'm going to be doing is going to be on Adam's punishment. But I hope you guys enjoyed this verse. And as always, if you guys have any questions or any prayer requests, just message me and I will be happy to answer you or put you on my prayer list. I love you guys and I hope you have a great day.